Hello, my name is Park Peters. I'm the owner of Audio Park Recording Studio in lovely downtown Arvada, Colorado. And I've been a recording engineer for a long time, the better part of 33 years now, professionally. Started in the late 1970s because it was a good thing for blind people to do, in that it related to music and it related to sound, and I've fancied myself to be fairly good at those sorts of things. My client base ranges from people doing voiceover work, which is essentially the voices you might hear behind commercials and behind training videos and the like, to music production, to synthesizer programming is kind of how I started officially. And I've done forensic work for pretty much any police department in the area. And I've produced my own material as well. That's not the tool I want. I want this tool. Basically, I've got both digital and analog recorders, aplenty, everything from a 2-inch Studer to various forms of computer digital editing. Restoration basically is the process of taking anything recorded in a medium, records, tapes, cassette, reel-to-reel, even wire, and putting it into a digital format where people can play it, like CDs, for instance. And that I can do multi-track masters. Most formats. I do not have half-inch 16 or 1-inch 16, but I have about everything else. Most of the time I'm recording to a Mackie SDR 2496, and the reason why I use that is because it is the converters in it are very good. They can get me frequency response that most of the converters that come with, say, Pro Tools can do, and I think that if we're going to go to digital, we may as well keep the sound quality as good as possible. And it can record up to 24 tracks in 24-bit, up to a 96K sample rate, which is a little more than double what a CD is. If I really care about the longevity and the quality of the project at the end, then I'll obviously want to record it at a higher sample rate. I've had an 80-voice choir in there, although it was a bit tight. A bit more comfortable, although still a bit tight, was the Metropolitan Jazz Orchestra recently that had 20 members. And that didn't work. I get to do it again. The solder melted, but it didn't melt where I wanted it to melt. One more time. So I use the studio. We've got a couple of isolation booths. We've got a drum room, as well as an isolation booth for vocals slash cabinets slash, in the case of the Metropolitan Jazz Orchestra, bass. We put bass in there. And then we just set up 20 horn players in the other room, and away we went. And of course, in my infinite wisdom, I didn't put the case on this cord, but I, like many people who solder things, forget to do that from time to time, and that is why we have nothing on the other end of this cable. But in building cables like this, we like that because it reminds me to put the case on going the other way now.
What's the other end going to be?
The other end is going to be an XLR plug, which is generally used for the likes of microphones. We've got 2 control rooms, and we've got basically both rooms are similarly equipped. One room has a smaller board than the other, but both rooms have the same Mackie, so tracks done in one room can be taken to another room and worked on. For the digital geeks, then I also am running Adobe Audition. I've got Tracer Technologies, some of their software. I've got Minnetonka Audio's MX Tracks Native, SoundForge. The most unusual project, far and away, was a group of people that played wine glasses and crystal bowls that improvised. It was one of the hardest projects to record. And it was also a very fun session because none of us knew going in what we were going to get, and none of us had any expectations that what we got had to look a certain way, other than when we were done we needed to meet a time constraint of, I think we needed a 10-minute piece or a 12-minute piece, something like that. The most important thing about the recording process is as much as possible have fun with it, because if you don't have fun with it, it shows in the recordings that you're not having fun with it. So if it's not fun, if people aren't comfortable in having fun, it's going to be a much more tedious project to listen to. There are 2 different kinds. Most people don't know that there are 2 different kinds. There's the most common, which is the Webster of Chicago wire recorder, which a couple of other companies made. Silvertone made a version of it, which is mechanically very similar. Interesting thing about the wire recorder is that they actually, the take-up spindle, there's no capstan like a reel-to-reel or a cassette. The wire is pulled through by the take-up reel, and it spins at 78 RPM, just like certain records that I can think of. My favorite one, I think, so far, other than maybe the Bob and Ray shows that I found, was somebody brought me in a wire where they just turned it on at a party and let it run from 1948. And we were having a discussion about Harry Truman versus Dewey, and they pretty much decided at the end of a 45-minute discussion that Dewey was certainly going to win next month. Okay, so now I go to this end, and that works, and that works. I did that correctly. And we go to the tip, and that should be the center pin, and not those 2 pins. So there's a ground. There's 1 pin. There's another pin, and the 3rd pin makes continuity. It's not attaching very well. There we go. Makes continuity. So that's working like it's supposed to. And going a little slower through the other one, we take the sleeve, attach the clip on there, and that should connect the 2 pins on this end. 1 and 2. Don't know if you can see that. And if I did it wrong, attaching to this center pin when the clip doesn't short out to something should give no continuity, and that means I built the cable correctly.